hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You can hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, good evening, everybody. Happy Monday, and welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Yes, we are here. It is a new month, and why not say adieu to August and welcome to September. Yes, even though we're at the peak of the hurricane season, it is what it is. Time is moving quickly, so fast, and almost the end of the year. It's almost that time for Christmas again. I cannot believe it. Can you imagine? Yes, but we're back. Listeners, we're back. The podcast where your voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration definitely takes center stage. And it is a pleasure to be here with you this evening. And I'm excited because not only is it September 1st, but officially we will be going until 7 p.m. Yes. 2 hours and a half. Yes, that's how engaging it has been. But you will notice that we removed this in the backdrop. What have you seen? Yes, I gave you my word that we had window treatments that would have changed. And I kind of played with the background a little bit so that you could see the difference and the improvements that we actually are making here. But, I gave you my word that the drapery roof's here, but I wanted to kick off the month of September the 1st as we were extending, and we got new content that is coming as well, more engaging conversations, and guests who will be joining us. So I hope that you're liking the background. And knowing me, I like to change things up a little bit. So yep, you will not get bored with me at all. But again, if it wasn't for you, this space would not be possible. I'm loving all of the feedback that I'm getting. And it is just making this even more meaningful. But today we're going to be diving into the topic that is close to my heart and to the heart of every Caymanian. And we're dabbling a little bit into the political landscape of our beloved islands. And, I couldn't have asked a more insightful guide on this journey. And I'm happy to have my special guest that will be joining me this evening, a man who has not only observed, but actively shaped our political history as well. And that's former member of the Cayman Islands Parliament, Mr. Roy Bodden. Bodden will be joining me momentarily. But again, if you're loving the content being shared here on this place, please follow, share, like, and subscribe. We're now on all CMR Facebook channels. And also you can follow me on Sabrina Speaks, the number 12 on Instagram, and Sabrina Turner Community Activist on Facebook. 936-8255 is the number to call, and you can join in as well on this discussion. Let me see what's going on here. And you know what? Before I go on to official roll call, let me take this moment to publicly express my sincere and deepest condolences to the family and loved ones and friends and co-workers, not only from the public transport sector, but also from the hospital. Many of you will know that I am a former nurse, and I worked with Devon. He was in the ambulance department. And I also worked with his mom for a short time, who worked in public health. But Devon, memories of Devon go back. He's only a year older than me, and he didn't mince any words when it comes to putting me in my place that he was older than me. But let me say, a more gentleman you could not find, a more sincere and honest friend you could not find. And I'm just happy that I had the opportunity to follow his command and went and see him at Jasmine before he got to the point where he was unable to speak. He is now out of his pain and suffering, discomfort, but it just goes to show you the vulnerability of life and how you shouldn't actually take anything for granted and just share a lot of love with people. It's one thing knowing the Devon that I knew, always respectful, kind, loving, always talking some kind of foolishness. And I think that's what me and him hit it off, because don't think I can't speak foolishness too. But there was just something with Devon, and I treasure those moments. And for those who watched the show on Friday, that was his daughter that I was speaking with. And what a sweet young lady. That's what I'll have to say there without getting really, really emotional. But I made them a promise, and I'm going to keep my word. And I just want to send all the love that I can to the family, and all due respect to the class of 1989 on behalf of my family, you, the Sabrina Speaks family. We send our sincere and deepest condolences to the family on this loss of this young man. So again, don't take anything for granted at all, because you never know. You never know. But yes, just going into roll call. I know it's a switch, but I gotta acknowledge you. You are the lifeblood of the show. Hi, Connie. It's a pleasure to have you. Yes, yes. The backdrop. Yes, you clapping? I'm happy you like it, Connie. I figured it would have touched you. I can see you are an orchid girl like me. Yeah, just that they gotta be artificial. They would die if I look at them too much. I swear, I'm not a green thumb at all. Yes, David, and sweet dreams. Oh, you're going to sleep. Love the background. Yes, Urban. Yes, thank you so much. Shaq, love the background. It's perfect. It's cozy, isn't it, Shaq? Yeah, that's the whole idea. I tell you, I'm a woman to my word. I try to keep it there. I try to keep it live. Good evening, Miss Dorothy McLeod. And yeah, Connie Farmer, Lynn, hi, how are you doing today? You can send me a friend request. I have been trying. Oh, so there, Connie. David is trying to reach out to you. Look at here. We're even building bridges right here. Yes, there we go. Barbara G, good evening to you. But without further ado, what's going on here? Let me go see. I even got a new setup, guys, and I'll share a picture later on. I'll send a picture a little later. I got multiple screens now that is on an arm, and I got all sorts of stuff going on. So it's just not the backdrop. I'm trying to make the workspace much more convenient, and so that when I have data, getting in information, that I can have everything easy access. But what I thought was more appealing to you and pleasing, if you notice, I've even improved on the lighting. Let me know what you think about the lighting as well. I didn't do anything with the camera. No, I did not a thing with the camera. It was just the lighting. So here we go. And I really appreciate the feedback. I put a lot of thought into it, and it just goes to show where we can. I'm playing with this mouse because that's running me up and down. But yes, yes. What? The mic is picking up some background stuff. I'm not so sure what's going on there. Yeah. So let's not waste any more time. Let's go into this episode. I think we're okay here. There we go. We're going to invite Mr. Bodden into the studio without further ado. Good evening, Mr. Bodden, and welcome to the show.
Good evening, Sabrina. How are you?
I am fine, thank you. And now that I've found all of these little gadgets, Mr. Roy, I think it's only fair that we give you a virtual applause. I'm just having fun here. How are you? Welcome back.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Thank you.
Yes, yes. Well, this evening's show plans to be a rather exciting one, and I'm hoping that people, will be engaging as we continue to elevate and educate our people, because we see the need of making that possible. And Mr. Bodden, this episode's theme is to focus on the significant shifts here at home, the Cayman Islands politics, the impact of regional and international events, and the unforeseen realities of life after political career. And you understand how fitting it is to go here with you. But I think what we're going to focus on is more of a full circle of it. And with Wednesday being Jamaican's election day, and we can see what that's happening. I don't want anyone to take it for granted that because they are Jamaica, we are the Cayman Islands, that we're not in some way should be concerned or should be aware as to what's happening. And I'm hoping that, this fascinating discussion to come will raise, look at peace, societal issues, and we'll just be frank and open with our discussion. So, I am just excited to get into it. And welcome again.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
So let's just get into it. You know me, might as well just go. We're going until 7 tonight because it's by popular demand. We can go over if needs be, but people are willing. They're able to call in if they so desire, Mr. Bodden. And so we make sure that we're not missing anyone or that we're going too fast. And I feel that it's important to hear what the people has to say as well. So we're going to just work with the space as much as we can. And like I said, if people have questions, they feel to call in or they can have them commented here on the screen. And we will definitely make sure that we are covering and answering their concerns. I'm not so sure about the acoustics of the audio, but I'm hoping everyone is hearing me fine. So let's just go right into looking into the topic of evolving political landscapes right here in the Cayman Islands. Mr. Bodden, that what is being said, let me call it what it is, whether or not the voters wanted to see how the independent experiment and the aftermath, the whole rise to new political parties pre 2025 general elections. And just looking at all of that, what's your take? I mean, you can take this from wherever you want. It's just a matter of getting the conversation started, in my humble opinion.
Well, in the Cayman Islands, there has been an aversion to political parties. From the very beginning, the history, the first political party was formed in 1958. Mm-hmm. That was called the Cayman Vanguard Progressive Party. In that election, the party, although they had a modern, one would say, very attractive agenda, they got trounced in the election because it was seen as anti-establishment. So the establishment, the political establishment trounced them, 1958. Mm-hmm. And party politics went into a tailspin then until 1962, arising out of the federation discussions and Cayman's decision not to join the federation. Mr. Oman Panton, who was a man, as far as I'm concerned, ahead of his time, formed the National Democratic Party. And to follow suit, the people who were opposed to him, the establishment politicians, formed their party and called it the Christian Democratic Party. So in the 1962 elections were contested on a party basis. Mm-hmm. National Democratic Party won the majority, but through a system, some a conspiracy, really. Mr. Ormond was not chosen as the chief minister, then with what we call the premier now. And so he resigned shortly after that.
Right.
Well, the party stayed in existence. He ran again in the next election and he won. But somehow the luster and sheen was taken off the party, of the National Democratic Party, and it phased out. And so the Christian Democratic Party went by the wayside. What supplanted these parties were a system we call teams, where an agglomeration of independents got together informally under one person, beginning with Jim Bodden and the national team. And teams then came into existence until we had 2000, when the United Democratic Party emerged again. United Democratic Party swept in 2001, formed, and they controlled the scene. Shortly thereafter, the People's Progressive Party, they were called, started. Then in the 2005 election, of course, the United Democratic Party lost its majority, and the People's Progressive Movement, they changed the name, held sway from that time, again, from 2005 until 2009, when another party, the United Democratic Party, had changed its name and came back with a different agglomeration. And then we had parties ever since. But in all of that, there was still room for independence.
Right.
Now, when the party system came about in the 2005, 2009, people said that was the death of independence. But history has proven otherwise. And to this, up to the last election, we still have independence. Although I must say, from my perspective, I believe that independents are becoming of less significance now. It seems that the party system is becoming entrenched, or if not entrenched, accepted. And so here we are.
Oh, wow. Now, do you feel that when we increase to the number of constituents, let's say the increased number of independents running, and we're still undecided as to whether or not we want to vote for parties, whether or not that in itself created, like, we need to decide where we're going to go.
Well, here's the predicament of independence, Sabrina. Independence will perhaps be attractive, and in one man, one vote, they may stand a good chance of getting in. But what happens after they have been returned? If they don't align themselves to some bloc or party, then they're just a lone voice, a voice in the wilderness. And so what I think is happening is that constituents are realizing if they want representatives who can deliver, then they had better choose representatives who are aligned to some bloc or the other. Now, independents have the flexibility. They may run on an independent platform and they may win. Thereafter, they may align themselves with an established party or bloc and still have some significance.
So do you feel then, go ahead. I want you to continue your train of thought.
I was saying, but it seems to me the attractive way to go is from the beginning. Form an alliance, declare your alliance, and while you're aligning with that position, and really campaign fervently and conscientiously, and then hope to win. And so from day one, you will know that you're in on the winning party or a winning side. And therefore, you're in a better position when horse trading comes to come away with something worthwhile that your representatives can say. At least you're a parliamentary secretary, if not a minister. Whereas if you're an independent and you join at the last minute, then you're probably the least choice.
Now, I'm glad in one way you mentioned the term horse trading. Can you break that down for us? Because I don't think I understand it, you understand it, but it almost want to appear as though when you say that, it's there's some money or some deal that's always dangling. And that is not the true concept of what horse trading means for this context.
No, it's not. Here's what happens. If you are part of a slate of candidates, you are one in a party. Your party would put forward a platform. People are likely to know who is the person that would probably be the Minister of Health, Minister of Education, Minister of
Mhm,
Finance, etc., etc. And many
mhm,
people, that's the basis upon which they vote. But if
mhm,
you're not so aligned and so entrenched, then you have to take a chance. Let's say you're an independent and
mhm,
then you join up with a group to form a majority. Well, because you joined late, you don't have any rank. So then that is where
mm,
the horse trading comes in. You have to demonstrate, look, without me, you can't come forward with a majority. And I
mm,
want a position, so I have to get a position. And that's where the trade-off is made. And in some cases, it's like, let's say, for example, there is maybe two, three, or four members from Georgetown,
mhm,
but that is not enough to make the majority. But you have to get one from East End or one from Bodden Town or one from North Side. The
mhm,
person coming from East End, Bodden Town or North Side would hold more weight than one of the persons from Georgetown
mhm,
who of themselves can't make a majority. So
mhm,
then a smart leader will say, well, boy, we have to take this person in at the
mhm.
expense of, let's say, uh, we will take Sabrina over Roy because Sabrina, we already have Georgetown, but we need Roy from Bodden Town or Sabrina from Bodden Town to make up the majority so that we can form the government. And that's how the horse trading goes. Who will not get a position from who will get a position? No, you're muted. I can't hear you now. You're muted.
Are you hearing me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, there we go. Go. I don't know. Yeah. Sorry about that. We're just trying to deal with some stuff in the background. Now, I said, based on everything that has played out here in the Cayman Islands, do you feel that eventually we will actually get to the point where we either go party politics or there will always be room for independence? Do you feel that democracy would be questioned if we actually say, well, you can't run as an independent? Do you feel that we'll ever get there, or
Oh no,
with
we shouldn't make that stipulation.
Mhm.
That shouldn't be a condition. there should always be room if people want to run independently
Right.
to run. That won't stop party politics from being established. I mean, it happens in the most advanced countries. People
Right.
run independent. We may be elected. A person may be elected on a party platform, and they have a difference of opinion or a philosophical difference, and decide to remove themselves from the party and become an independent. That happens in the most advanced democracies. So there will always be room for independence. The precarious thing about being independent is that if you want to be effective, you run the risk of not being effective by being an independent, because you'll just be a lone voice. You can't strictly bargain. You can't horse trade. You can't say, well, listen, I'm a part of the party, therefore I am making this demand. If you're an independent, you say, we think we can afford it to you. You're not a party member per se. But it doesn't mean that independents don't have space in the parliament. They
Right.
do.
What does that say right then in the climate? What would like that environment be then with a bunch of a coalition government then? There's no necessarily outright party. That temperature must be a little awkward, as you rightfully described.
Here is where independents have the advantage. In the event of a close election
Yeah.
where the majority is only one, an independent then is in a powerful position because he or she can choose where they wish to go and give, and therefore their position is really worth something. They can almost demand what position they want to hold, because they will be allowing the side that they're aligned with to have the majority. That's when the position of independent is strongest. But
Ah.
you see, but it's a risk. It's a risk they take. They may not be needed. They may not be needed to
Now,
play such an important role.
Now, in the 2025 elections, we saw the emergence of two other parties, one in which I was a part of, the TCCP, the Caymanian Community Party, and the Cayman Islands National Party. What do you think that could actually, what kind of impact you think moving forward in the future that could have on multi-party politics here in Cayman?
Well, two things are going to happen. Either we believe that the People's Progressive Movement has established itself as a party. And by the record, we would say they by their record, they've been around longer than any other party. So let's assume that that's a criterion for establishment.
You mean
What will happen?
the
Pardon?
PPM? The PPM.
The PPM.
Okay. Yeah.
What will happen with the TCCP and the Cayman Community Party is either they decide that there's enough common ground between them and they merge and become one party, or they continue to separate parties and risk being decimated by the PPM. Because the PPM clearly has the advantage of tenure, as we say in the academic world. They're established, right? So either the coalition that currently exists will continue, or each unit, each entity at the next election will split and take their chances and contest the election as two individual parties. So it remains to be seen what the temperature will allow them to do. If it's quite possible that they could come out as independent parties and one could win the majority. I would say, however, that the likelihood of them continuing in the union they are now would probably be the better position to take.
Which is, for clarity?
Which is continue as a coalition.
Okay. Okay. Do you think, based on our size and the mere fact that we have single member constituencies, that all of these parties will possibly do some sort of I guess the word damage, or almost confuse? Like, the more parties you have, do you feel, and single member constituency, that's what the key is. With all of these parties and how single member constituencies are right now, do you feel that that may actually impact the results of an election?
No, not negatively, because you see, here is a good political party will try to elevate and edify the people to its agenda and its objectives, and get the people believing in it. And it doesn't matter how many parties or how many agglomerations you have. If you present your agenda in an attractive and appealing way, and that's what the constituents want. You could have 1,000 and you will win over that 1,000 and you will survive. That's the key, though. We have to work. You see, Sabrina, the way I know it, these parties are really not political parties per se, according to my definition. Hear me out. A real political party has its roots in the constituencies. So it begins from the bottom up and not the top down. Here, we have one or two influential people getting together, drawing other candidates of a similar interest around them and coming out as a party. The way real political parties are established, you start from the grassroots in the constituency, and you have constituency caretakers, and the representative for each constituency is elected by that constituency to represent the party in national elections. So you and I may be from Prospect in the same party, and here is how that is dealt with. All of the members of our party will vote for you or I first. And then if you win, I am duty bound to throw my support behind you, so that the stronger or strongest candidate goes up on the national slate. And
so you're not competing with your own party member.
That's right. And then each constituency chooses the members based on that, and they become the party representatives. And we sign a contract. A contract. So if I want to contest, I have to leave the party, or else if I don't toe the line, I'll be expelled. That's the only how I can go against you. If you and I are in the same party, in the same constituency, and we go on head to head and you beat me, I have to put my support behind you. Otherwise, I have to leave the party. And so that's how it's built up. That's how it's built up, so that only the strongest people are sent up to represent the party. And at the head of the party then is the head. You and I vote for who we want to be the head of the party. And not because I set myself up and say, well, I'm Roy Bodden, and Sabrina, you and Tom, Jerry, and all these other people got to follow me. No, you vote. You vote and demonstrate at the party conference. The party will have a conference before the election. And you say, we're supporting Sabrina Turner for our head. And that means if our party wins, she will be the premier or the prime minister or the chief minister. We know that before we go into the election. If our party wins, you will be the premier or the chief minister.
I'd like to get your take on this from a commenter. If two parties run together in 2029, right? What does that mean then for the other members who ran with each party before that didn't make it? For
Okay,
full
well,
disclosure, I'm not running. We are just doing this for discussion, for education, and I am reading.
well,
Yeah.
look, if you're a member of a party, you're a member of the party until you resign or until the party throws you out. So, for example, you, I ran in this election and didn't win, but I still remain a member of the party. That means I can set myself up again to run in the next election. You see, unless we have a system like I told you, and we have a runoff in the constituency, and I don't win. But how it is now, there's nothing to prevent me from coming back and running in 2029 or whenever the election is going to be for my same party. Nothing. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah. But just look at the right now at what's happening. If we're still pretty much growing into who we are as a jurisdiction with politics, we're seeing the emergence, as I rightfully said, in a number of parties. We're seeing independents still have a stronghold. I'm still hearing a lot of persons that are saying, certain members should have remained independent instead of joining party A or party B. What's your take on that? Then if we're saying no one person is an island and that you have to come together to who can form the government the fastest, and sometimes that may actually depend on persons that are not aligned with any party. Some people,
Well,
I think this is a national conversation, to be honest, Mr. Roy, because some people are totally against party politics.
well, but that's right. I agree with you. But you see, we have to educate the people as to the efficacy and the strength of party politics. I believe in party politics. The UK encourages us to go to party politics because you cannot negotiate unless you have a majority. And the way to ensure a majority is to contest the elections as a bloc, a formal bloc. Let me tell you from experience, when we had the national team, one time we went to the UK to meet with the officials of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, and they say, right now, you're an agglomeration of individuals. You are not a legal entity. If you want to have influence and authority, go and form yourselves apart into a party. And then we can negotiate, because you will be speaking for not the 9 of you or the 8 of you or the 7 of you. Will be speaking with one voice. But now you're just a team, and we cannot accept that as a unit. So people have to understand, and it is up to the parties, to educate the electors as to the efficacy of the party. That's what Eric Williams did in Trinidad when he set out to form the PNM. He educated the people. He had a meeting place called Woodford Square, where he told the people the pros and cons of the party system. And he built that up and eventually led Trinidad into independence. But that's what our people don't do. You see, we don't elevate and edify and uplift our constituents. We just use the convenience of election. Then we say we're a party, but we're really not a party.
Well, it's funny that you say that, because and just for context, so that we can understand, and I hope the young man that ran, especially in West Bay, that stands to question Mr. Jordan Rivers. If two parties right now running together join forces, what happens to a party member that, let's say, then was not elected, like Jordan, but they're now operating as one? How does that impact understanding the small society that we live in? It's
But that person remains a member of the party.
okay.
And the party then, here's what happens. Here's what happens. And the party then, his party, if they're influential in the parliament, would ensure that he's not in the wilderness. They would give him some position where he is still useful and to maintain his loyalty. Now,
Especially if there's still political aspirations.
precisely, and he's a candidate that has some prospect. They will want to keep that person in the fold. So they may put him on a board, for example. They may put him on a board which carries some prominence, or they may give him a position in the constituency, which is aligned to the political party. In other jurisdictions, they may make him a caretaker, so that he's responsible for marshaling the constituents and letting the MP know, letting the party know the needs of the constituency, and still hold an office where he is available. So
Right.
you don't, because you lose, you don't just dump them. You don't
Right.
just throw them overboard. You keep them. And smart people will give them a position on some board to maintain their loyalty. It's the nature of the business. You see, the party system is a spoils system. And the winner take the spoils. So if your party wins and the member doesn't win, you're still in a good position to help that member.
Sure. Wow. I still feel that this is like multiple series, Mr. Bodden, because life goes on. And as we're seeing the terminology, you may hear me say this a lot about geopolitics and the geopolitical shifts and all that sort of stuff. And we're using these terms, but I think a lot of homework has to be done here, as you rightfully say. If we're going to go with party, if we're going to still acknowledge independence, that the voters are the ones who really are the ones who are determining the landscape of what a cabinet will look like based on their votes. And using terms, go ahead.
It's shows like your show that will elevate and edify the listeners so that they understand next time around.
We got a caller. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks.
Good evening, Sabrina. Good evening, Dr. Roy. MP Brian here.
Mr. Roy, are you hearing the caller?
Yeah, yes, I am.
Good evening, Dr. Roy. I am really excited about the conversation today because it's one of those things that I try to predict the future. It's going to be interesting because as you were talking about things like, what's going to happen when you have two parties working together when the next election comes, and what happens to those other people who ran but they were not successful for each party. And Dr. Roy, you highlighted the point that to try to make sure that they're taken care of, but they can't run because ultimately you'll be fighting against yourselves. It's quite similar like what we had. We had a coalition government of independence, and then we split, and then you end up campaigning against yourselves. So it's either they split, and then when the campaign comes, what are you going to say to each other? You're all kind of involved in the making of the government, and then you're hoping that those persons, if you do join together and join forces and say we're going to stay and run, you're hoping that those people who fought for your party the last time don't get upset and say, oh, hold on, I fought with this party, you want me to side now and support the member who beat me when we were campaigning together? That's going to be a hard one, and I'm interested in how that's going to play out, and that's one of the problems with the coalition stuff. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Dr. Roy.
No, you see, but that's the essence. The essence of part of politics is all for one and one for all. So if you lose to an opponent, then you have to, the party demands that you support that person. And the party demands that you support that person. Because if you were to go against that person, you can't stay in the party. You have to leave the party. And so it's really not difficult, And here's what happens sometimes when we get into the dynamics and when the party system matures, you will understand. Let me tell you what happens. For example, the leader of the party is never given the most difficult constituency to run in. The leader of the party always runs in what is called a safe seat.
Oh, wow.
That is a seat that party has carried for years. The leader of the party is not given the most difficult constituency to contest the election in. The party takes care of him by giving him what is called a safe seat, making him or her a virtual shoe-in. That's the dynamics of the party. That's the dynamics of the system.
him, him or her, because we can have a strong female leader. But
No, I said that. I said that.
I
I said him or her, but
sorry.
but I
Yeah,
don't
he
say
did.
her. I say him. It's taken. Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
that's how the party, you have to understand that the party protects its members. The party protects its members, and it's the party that is supreme, not any one individual. That is why the leader is chosen by all the other members, or by all the members, all the elected members usually chooses the party leader. And we know that before we go into the election. If my party wins, it's likely to be Sabrina or Kenneth Bryan, the leader. So we know that, and that's how the people choose. That's how the people make their choice, on the basis of that and the platform on which they're running.
Well, I'll leave the show now because I just want to sit and listen. Dr. Roy, you're such a great, valuable asset of information for the public. But I'll say this, and Sabrina, I hope you're okay with me saying this, but we talk about party loyalties and supporting people who help the party. It is really disappointing. Sabrina, you fought really hard for TCCP, and I've noticed that you haven't been appointed to any boards. And as I advocate for persons who ran an election and offered themselves up for service, it is hard to continue to live and survive in Cayman. And this is when you see where people are loyal and take care of those persons who were with them. And I'm surprised that they haven't even given you an appointment, because you were one of the strong candidates who stood there with them. And I don't know why that is. I don't know, it's because the coalition is with the other person and the other party, but they should at least give you a post somewhere you can contribute, because you have a lot to contribute. And as you have said, you don't plan to run again, so you shouldn't be any threat to anybody.
I make that
I
very
really
clear.
think they should
I make it very clear.
No, but Sabrina,
skill sets.
pardon me. I wouldn't make that statement were I you. Don't say you're not going to run again, because you're a young lady with a lot to offer. And I heard what MP Brian said, but don't take it personal, because let me put it to you.
No, I didn't take it personal. I just know me.
You are in an advantageous position. So not being chosen for a post is not the end of the world for you, because
Exactly.
you have at your fingertips a microphone and an audience. So now the challenge for you is to build your constituency. But don't make any public declaration that you're not going to run again. Because
Sir, I'm being very honest with you. I know me though.
But listen, you'll be doing yourself a disservice. What if? Let us say, what if? What if a delegation of 300 people writing petition you, pledging their support? Are you going to? No, don't say you're not going to run again. That's we have to learn politics. We have to learn politics, and we don't make a statement like that. Please don't.
Understood.
And I
Point
understand.
taken.
I've been on two sides. I know that it hurts, but don't say that. Don't say you're not going to run again. Don't say you're not running again. And don't worry that you're not chosen, that you have not been chosen either for a position, even although I believe that smart people will look out for their own, because a party is like a union. But you never throw your members overboard. But you see, we're just learning. And I'm a wise old owl. I wouldn't.
I know. That's why you're here. That's why we're having this conversation with you. Caller, are you done?
Yeah, I'll just say one last thing, and
Go
I
ahead.
think it was an interesting point about independents taking a risk. And obviously, I think, Sabrina, you may have, you didn't call my name, but you may have referred to me as the example of some people joined parties who were independents before. And I definitely put my hand up as one of those. And to be honest with you, though I'm happy for my former
That was
colleagues,
myself
Jay
too.
and Isaac. Yeah. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. You were
yeah.
independent as well. I totally forgot about that.
Yeah.
That the two independents who are good friends of mine, Honorable J.E. Banks and Isaac Rankin, they took a risk, and obviously it paid out in favor for them. But if the two parties had actually made the majority and gotten 10, for example, I hate to say it like this, but Johnson came very close to Mr. Roy McTaggart. Mr. Tasha came very close to Roy Tatum. Hypothetically speaking, if they had gotten those seats and both parties would have had 5-5 with an agreement to say, okay, I have the majority now 10, the bargaining position of those independents wouldn't have been so great. And as a result, they may not have been able to negotiate a ministerial position. And I think that's the risk that you were talking about. And some of the reasons why I think, at least I know for myself, I made a decision for more structured political parties, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, I'll leave it there. I'm enjoying the show. I'd love to hear more from Dr. Roy on his viewpoint on that.
Okay, thank you, caller. Are you going to hold on or? Okay, yeah. Yeah, and you're free to call in 936-8255. Are you going to respond, Mr. Roy?
Well, it's as I was saying, you know, when you run as an independent, when you have a choice of joining a party, you take a risk. You take a risk that you might you might not be called to be a part of a government, because quite naturally it's a loyalty system. So if the party has members already signed up, then they don't need independents. Independents will have to stay out in the cold and take their chances. So I know I know what my choice would be. I have always advocated for a party system. And even if the party falls short and you become the opposition, the official opposition, it's better to have that designation than to be floating out there as a Nowherean. Because what is happening here now is that constituents are getting more demanding.
Yes.
And they're not going to want someone who is not going to be able to deliver.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that's demanding on some things that are just could be deemed, let's have the real talk. Some people actually look and grade their MP based on how much money they can actually get during the course of the time, how much of their personal household upgrades that they may actually need. Is that a fair measuring tool as to how constituents should actually look at their MP? How much cash, how much help, how much gifting you can give them, or during the political time, who can fix my roof? Who's giving me the most money? These are how much votes I can secure. How do we shift that type of behavior?
That is not the principles upon which democratic politics is built. And that is why I'm saying that the onus is upon the parties, upon the people who contest the elections, to uplift and edify their constituencies. Your representative owes you the best representation he or she can give. That means
define that. Thank you.
Oh, I'm defining it. That means a society in which you can move around without fear of being violenced. At night, you can rest assured that you're safe in your environs, your home, and in the morning, you have a job to go to. That at the end of the week or at the end of the month gives you a salary. And you have a government which is accountable. That's it. That is it. That is the essence of true representation. And you are being cheated if someone tells you that their responsibility is every time you come, they shove their hand in their pocket and give you $25. They are demeaning you. They're treating you with contempt, because that is not what it is. And no representative should do that to their constituencies. Of course, there will be times when people, medical reasons, other emergencies, and they will need help. But normally, Sabrina, I'm telling you, I wouldn't do it. I got a reputation. I saw it happen all around me, and I wouldn't. When they came to me, I said, no, that is not my responsibility as your representative. My responsibility as your representative, and particularly when I was the Minister of Labor, is to ensure that you, when the morning comes, you have a job to go to. I'm not giving you my salary because I have obligations. I have my own children, and I wouldn't do it. And they cursed me, and I wouldn't do it. And I wouldn't do it because that's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to see that you are safe when you leave your environs. You are safe inside your environs, and you have a job to go to. And that when you want to find me, you can find me, and I give you honest representation. But I'm not one for handouts. And anyone who does that is subverting democracy and representation. And too much of it goes on. Too much of it goes on.
What would you say that we're seeing certain cultures creep in where that type of behavior is a norm?
Well, it happens in certain regional destinations, but we shouldn't follow that, and we shouldn't bring those kinds of influences here because they're detrimental to democracy. And that is what constitutes garrison constituencies. And that's where we have to be careful of the one man, one vote, because you get strong men coming up who do that, the Don man. Why you want something? Go see the Don man, go see the Don. No, it shouldn't be like that. You shouldn't have to go to see someone to get a favor done. If something needs doing, then it should be done, and it should be open. Because that.
Go ahead. Finish your thought.
Those kinds of politics come back to haunt those who encourage it.
What would you say then to those persons who may be saying, well, look at where the two of them is? Make them stay there with that mindset. Horse done through the gate, as Island Days says. It's too late. Caymanians is already saturated with garrison mentality. But then we're seeing it from the other side where we know it's not right. How do you curtail that way of thinking if you want better democracy, or even use the word democracy?
Well, it's a choice. It's a choice. And personally, even if I'm in the minority, that is my position. I refuse to compromise. And if the majority of people want to go that way, I'm telling them they will go to their own detriment. You just have to look around and see what happens in other jurisdictions. Whose politics take that path. No one can be safe. No one can be safe. And so we shouldn't go that way here either. And I would prefer to be in the minority and have principles than to win under those circumstances, because you have no respect.
Do you think this jurisdiction then should reconsider single member constituencies or that style of voting?
Well, I'll tell the truth. I wasn't for single member constituencies from the beginning. I didn't support it because I didn't think that the system that we have, single member constituencies, was the best methodology for choosing representatives. Therefore, I didn't support it. The system we had worked quite well. It worked quite well. And as a matter of fact, I think that it was more democratic in that it gave everybody a greater chance, that it was an even chance of winning than single member constituencies where you might come from a constituency where a significant number of the people are your relatives. But the person that you're running against, that's not the case. And so I remain to be convinced that single member constituency for the Cayman Islands is the most effective way of changing the representatives. Here's a case in point. Why is it not that why have we not accepted the report of the Boundaries Commission? Why have we not accepted that? People don't want to accept that because they don't want to lose the strong position that they're in now.
Having had that report, to be honest, and I have another question, but I'm going to address that, is because felt at the time that what was being called, and this is not spilling any secrets, was for an additional seat within the Bodden Savannah area. And then listening to the temperature nationally, when some of those findings they were like, no, we don't want any more. And then the salaries became a big topic and all of that. And where would you do that? Understanding the Boundaries Commission report looked at future development and of voters based on age and any planned development as we spoke about. And then I think there was something too, looking at the size and shifting the boundary marks. And nationally with the discussions, even if it came on the tail end of this document, people just wanted Georgetown to remain Georgetown, Boddentown to be Boddentown, East End and North Side to be that. And based on these lines, that would have actually encroached into some of the districts that we know it. So it became a little challenging, to be honest, Mr. Roy, based on what I know. Now, this is not in stone, but that's pretty much the gist of it. There were some other reasons as well, but at the end of the day, a revision was to be considered.
Well, it's still a pressing matter, and then as is the business of district councils.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that requires a constitutional change. So when I hear people talk about district councils, and I mean, I was a part of a Red Bay Prospect community group, and that is why that's an NPO, is because we realize that if the government of the day and district council that requires a constitutional change, and that wasn't a priority of the government having to go to UK, make these changes, then what's the sense of calling it a district council? It's smoking mirrors, but you can still have a very active group on the ground. Yeah,
I suppose so, but I see it as an enhancement of the democratic process.
But there lacks political will. There has to be political will because it requires a constitutional change. And that requires prioritizing that on any sitting government's list.
Well, it should be considered the sooner rather than later, because it will strengthen the democracy. It will make things more inclusive. You know, I sense in many regards, particularly among young people, there is an aversion. Many young people are cynical towards the electoral process here. And we're going to be the losers if we don't do something to curb that cynicism.
You're quite right, sir.
Because you can't have the next generation opting not to participate. It will erode the democracy. And so that's where I saw the strength of things like district councils come in. We have to broaden the pool and make things inclusive. And there's another aspect I'm going to bring in, which is a controversial aspect. What are we going to do about all these people whom we have made permanent residents, and some of them Caymanians? What are we going to do about their involvement in the electoral process?
To vote or to sit for office?
To vote. How are we going to make it uniform and for them to vote? To sit is a different matter. I understand the sensitivity, and I'm not advocating that, but so that these people can vote. And so, you know, look, we have to shed our insularity at some stage. Otherwise, we risk killing the goose that laid the golden egg. And so here's my philosophy, and as a historian, you know, one of the things that district councils would do is provide an opportunity for those people who are ineligible or cannot sit in the parliament to still serve as a part of the representative process by being advisors to those people who sit in the parliament. Because we cannot continue to have people whom we have given, for all intents and purposes, all the other rights and privileges, accept the rights and privileges to participate in the electoral system, and call ourselves a democratic society. And I understand that. I understand the war. I read about it, and I'm an advocate of the established Caymanian position. We shouldn't give it away. We've already given away too much. But
Right.
by the same token, I also lived in another jurisdiction where I could not vote for people in the federal parliament, but I could vote for those in the provincial parliament. And to an extent, that's all I wanted. That's all I cared for about.
So I noticed you brought up the permanent residents, and in regards to vote, would you say that this jurisdiction could consider persons who are holders of permanent residence to be considered eligible to vote as well? Because right now, as it stands, you have to be the holder of Caymanian status.
Well, why
Would
not?
I'm just asking a general question. Yeah, because you
Look
have
at me.
companions, you have permanent residents for those who have been here, let's say gone through the PR, the point system, they'll eventually get status through naturalization for 15 years until that then changes. But definitely now you have spouses of Caymanians who they may never ever want to acquire Caymanian status because that's a choice because their current facility no longer expires. So you would support persons who are permanent residence holders or on an RERC as a spouse of a Caymanian to be able to participate, to be able to vote in a Cayman elections.
But of course, I draw the line when it comes to sitting in parliament. But of course, they
Okay.
should be allowed to vote. Of course,
Okay.
they should be allowed.
We have another question on WhatsApp, but we also have a caller on hold. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Hi, good evening, Miss Sabrina. Good evening, Dr. Roy. It's Johan Moxham. How are you guys doing?
Good evening. I have your comments flagged here, but I didn't hear them to not take away from the conversation. But feel free. Go right ahead, sir.
No. Listen, Mr. Roy has contributed so much in educating multiple generations of Caymanians on many things. But I have to disagree with Dr. Roy. You're either Caymanian or you're not Caymanian. Having permanent residency does not make you Caymanian. So therefore, if you're not Caymanian, you shouldn't be eligible to vote. It's real simple. That we need to be able to distinguish between who has certain rights and privileges, and in the current environment where Caymanians are feeling the pressure, getting PR already is too easy. It's too easy to get a permanent residency. It's too easy to get a work permit. It's too easy to effectively get a LCCL license. And Caymanians, we are now truly, and I'm not saying this to be bombastic, I think we've surrendered so much already. We owe it to ourselves to take a look at everything and ask what is in the best interest of these 35,000 Caymanians that basically are here. We are a minority in our own country. Everybody that gets PR and many people that are employed assume that they are automatically going to get PR and then they're going to automatically get status, because I'm not aware of anybody ever losing their PR or ever losing Caymanian status en masse for any sort of bad character, criminal conviction, or anything unsavory. So I would have to respectfully disagree with somebody I have immense respect for, that there's nothing wrong with Caymanians saying, no, we've gone a bridge too far and we need to take a look at everything. And whilst we're taking a look at everything, I was calling in, Dr. Roy, can you explain why Cayman Brac has two seats when you look at the total voting body in Cayman Brac? Like, if we're talking about doing things properly and representing people and value for money and so on and so forth, Cayman Brac is assured constitutionally two representatives, yet their voted base might be 1,500 people. If I want to be corrected, but it isn't more than 2,000. So you've got districts on Grand Cayman that effectively have a larger voting district than Cayman Brac. Yet we don't see the need to effectively look at that, change that, because, and again, Cayman Brackers have contributed a lot to the country, but the people that are now becoming Caymanian in Cayman Brac aren't necessarily multi-generational Brackers. And so the theme, the ethos, the culture, and the way of life in Cayman Brac seems to be shifting as a result of us making it so easy for everybody to go from PR to status and so on and so forth. And the other thing that I think is important that we take a complete look at is we need to close the global citizen loophole. We need to close the and make it more stringent, the LTCL regime, because you've got people that are showing up here with immense amounts of money that effectively they come in, they're here, they get PR by, and the next thing you know, they're running the show. And I'm going to give an example of people that show up here that if you doubt that, or if you think that Crazy Larry, the guy that is applying for PR and who basically came here thinking that he was doing us a favor, there are a lot of Crazy Larrys in Cayman, and we need to do everything in our power to ensure that we vet, certify, and triple check the type of people, character, ethos, work ethic, but more importantly, respect for the people of the Cayman Islands and Cayman in general, before we start making this so easy where every and anybody assumes I got PR now, so I can get status, and now that makes me Caymanian. It's a lot that I've said, but you know, I think I'm one of the few that is brave enough to say it out loud. And I'm not being racist. I'm not being a bigot. I just think that becoming Caymanian is like the equivalent of winning the lottery. There are hundreds of thousands of people that wish they could get the privilege of being Caymanian, and we give it away because we don't value it ourselves, and we make it too simple and too easy for people who show you one face, but then many turn out to be something else completely, and we wonder why there's disharmony. And it doesn't matter if you're black, green, purple, Asian, from outer space, or whatever. We need to do a good job, a better job of protecting Cayman for Caymanians, because this is the only place that we can call home. You can go anywhere else, and they will tell you, you're not an American, you're not a Brit, we're taking away your citizenship, we're taking away this. When you're a Caymanian, this is home. This is what it is. And so that has to count for something. But I don't think on a national level, we are really cognizant of how fortunate we are. And more importantly, I don't think the people that come here, very few of them assimilate or even have any real interaction with multi-generational Caymanians and understand our culture. I don't think they understand how lucky they are, because the type of person getting that privilege today is very different from the person who got it in 1980, 1975, and so on and so forth. So I just wanted to throw those logs in the fire and get some commentary from you there.
Thank you, caller.
Well,
Lot to unpack. Let's see.
let me make my position clear.
Sure.
I have stated from the beginning, right? And certainly in my last book, Deconstructing Development, Immigration, Society, and Economy, I've laid it out. There should only be one set of Caymanians, and that's established Caymanians, or what people call generational Caymanians. But there can be other levels. Established Caymanians should be primus inter pares, first among the others, first among the equals. And established Caymanians only should have certain privileges. One of those privileges, look, I said it from the very beginning, from before. The only man who said earlier than I was a man called Andrew Morris Gerard. Foreign people should not be allowed to own absolute titles to Caymanian land. We should not have sold it to them. We should not have sold them absolute titles. They should only have been allowed to buy leaseholds. And in that, I was branded a Marxist, a socialist, a communist, a radical. In the 1970s, early 80s, that was my position. It's still my position. I'm sorry that we made that mistake. And so therefore, if you can't own absolute title to the land, you cannot become a citizen. But that doesn't mean you can't have some other privileges which allow you to consider yourself making, how should I put it, progressive contribution to the society in which you live. And I agree. I agree that there are people here who should not be here. But at the same time, I don't want us to be so insular that we lock the shop and say you can only come here on a work permit or whatever the case might be.
Mm-hmm. Okay, go ahead, sir. I just think we just had a little glitch right there.
Yeah, I'm not at cross purposes with what your last speaker said. I believe that being a Caymanian is a sacred and sacrosanct privilege only for persons who have been here established by what I call security of tenure and who hold ancestral privileges. Others who came after will have to settle for something else. But that doesn't mean that we should exclude them if they're law-abiding and if they're contributing to the society. And that's the position that I make clear. As to land ownership, they should have never been allowed to own absolute titles to any Caymanian land.
Well, that's what this space is all about. I love to hear it from all on all sides. And I thank you, Mr. Roy, for coming on and giving your opinion. We had the caller there who was giving a different perspective. And we also got comments who are for and against exactly what you said. And that is why I like this space, because it's just not my opinion, your opinion. That's why the phone lines are there, 9368255. And we're understanding then the power of a referendum. Not to say that everything have to go to a referendum, but engaging with the public, having town hall meetings, spaces just like this, where we can have the open conversation. Maybe difficult to have at times, but at least we're doing it respectfully. There is a question that came in. What do you think about mixed member proportional representation, that's the MMP, or transferable votes? What's your take on that?
Well, all these things are in other jurisdictions, many other jurisdictions, they work. Our system here is first past the post. It worked well before. Cayman's a small system. I see no reason why we should change from first past the post, except, as I have said, I don't like the idea of garrison constituencies and the one man, one vote, because it's too easily conducive to the garrison mentality. You see?
Okay, we got it. Oh, MP Ryan is calling again. Go ahead, Mr. Brian, you're live.
Thank you, Sabrina. Dr. Roy, I want to ask you to opine a little bit on your viewpoint of the residents and the right to vote as residents, because I, like myself, agree with Johan. I don't think people, the permanent residents, should have the right to vote. But I want to, because of your great mass of education and understanding and knowledge and experience, I want to understand why. Because in my mind, the reason why I don't support it, not because I don't think people should have a say in the society that they live, but there is graduated stages upon which you should be able to influence the culture and the legislation of our society, because a person can get permanent residency quite quickly. And obviously, without a longevity of the commitment to our cultural norms and way of life, you can have a major influx of different viewpoints that will change the landscape of the way we are, because obviously, naturally, politicians are going to respond directly to what the voters are asking for. So if you have a large population of persons on the residency who say, you know what, we don't think that religion should be a priority, cut churches out altogether, and they outnumber the what you call generational cultural voters who believe in Christian faith and all that. I'm not trying to make this a religious thing, but let's use this as an example. That can have a severe effect on, naturally, the politicians will do what the voters ask them to do by way of majority. So that's why I'm opposed to it. So maybe you could opine on the reason why you think they should have the right to vote, so I can maybe learn something or understand your viewpoint, not just to say you're opposed to it. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, caller.
First of all, let me tell you what I see is the problem. The problem was in the immigration law. Okay? So I had the privilege of leaving Cayman and becoming an immigrant in another society. Let me tell you what I went through. I didn't walk dogs for my residency. I didn't do any of those things on a point system, right? The person said, here is your situation. You're married to a citizen of this country. So we're extending this privilege to you. It is a privilege. I didn't have to pay them $15,000 or $20,000 for making an investment of $500,000. They say it is a privilege we're extending to you, and this privilege can be withdrawn if for any of the following reasons. Okay, you're separated, divorced from the spouse, which is a citizen of this country, or if you break the laws of the country, and that could be breaking the speed limit. We reserve the right, and you should let us know if your marital status changes, because if you don't and we find out, then you have some explaining to do. So right away, there were criteria that I had to live up to and had to meet. So all this nonsense that we have about points this for this and points for walking dog, it all goes out of it. And no money changed hands. No money changed hands. And it's simple. If you break the law, we're going to send you out. You're being deported. I see people here commit heinous offenses, and they go before the courts, and there's no exclusion order. And the courts say, we can't do it because it's not in the immigration law. And the immigration law say, the court should do it. Well, first of all, one agency is at cross purposes with the other. And so a lot of people come in under the radar, just like that. We need to have a uniform system. And there's weakness in the courts and there's weakness in the law. And until we get that straightened out, we cannot have a strictly enforced system dealing with immigration and immigrant offenses. And I see it, kisses go by favors. And I say this without fear of successful contradiction. Some time ago, I saw where people complained that there was one sentence for the foreign people and another sentence for the local people. And the sentence for the local people for the same offense was more drastic and draconian. And then some legal officials said, yeah, we have to look into this. So we need to change the cockeyed system we have before we can talk about. To me, it's a moot point whether permanent residents get the vote or don't get the vote. I don't care one way or the other. I'm saying what is best for democracy and the essence of democracy, because it cannot be democratic if you have a society of 100 people, 100,000 people, but only 10,000 people can vote.
Mm-hmm. But in the UK and the US, you must be a citizen in order to vote. Would permanent residence in this case would not make you a citizen, though?
Okay, so here's what I'm saying. The bigger point is being missed. I am saying that these people need not be excluded from the process if they had some other system that they could participate in. And I'm saying, of course, I don't agree with if they can't vote in national elections, then why not set up the district councils that they can make a contribution? And I'm certainly not advocating that they sit in the parliament, because I understand the sanctity of that. They're not established here, and they can, and they shouldn't be allowed to sit. But they should be allowed some even limited participation in the democratic process.
Caller, does that conclude your questions? We got some other callers on hold, but they're trying to get through on WhatsApp.
No, that's okay. I thought I hung up before. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Good evening, caller. You're live.
You want to hear me this evening?
No, it's not me. I can't. Once you're calling in, you came in on WhatsApp, and I can't swap the two.
Okay.
So go ahead. And there's another caller calling in on WhatsApp. So the floor is yours. I can't take that call because you're listening.
That's what?
No, there's another call that's coming in. So if you had a question for Mr. Roy, please go ahead because that's on WhatsApp.
I agree with what I get talking to, but I agree with what Mark say. I've been preaching that people in I guess, well, I don't care. It includes me because I'm not a fruit, as I call it, Caymanian. I keep saying that, but they keep, and I've been on the show and telling them that certain privilege that people that come in here and get PR or status or status or what I want to call it should not have certain privilege. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, but once you got status, I don't care, I will die with it. I am not a Caymanian, although I have grandparents and I never get it off the bill of rate. But I am a status holder. I had to get naturalized and then I get status. And yes, if you do think in the same about no, it shouldn't be revoked, okay? And yes, because some people are two-faced, and yes, they should have the privileges that a born Caymanian should have. It could even apply to me because I am for right.
Okay.
I am for right. But they keep telling me that, no. I tell them, I say, my two children is Cayman because they born here, but I born Banaka. But my mother was South Tona, my father was South Tona. I come here at the age of 9 from 1962. But no, and I agree with what he said because some people two-faced and yes, and there's certain privileges that they shouldn't have, and yes, they should be able to revoke. If you come to a country, you need to have respect for the people in the island. I am 100% for that, and I don't care who won't like me or who won't bash me and say anything. That's their business.
Okay, thank you for that, Mr. Bodden. We're getting some caller. The one that was calling on WhatsApp, you can call back. But again, this is respectful. This may actually be a national discussion, and I'm hoping that this scratches the surface here. And we're not coming after you in your opinion. You're not coming after me in our opinion. We're just having this discussion. And this is a good, in my humble opinion, Mr. Roy, temperature check on this. Because it would be interesting on a wider scale exactly what the current climate is. We're doing immigration reform right now. You've heard on the campaign trail, I was on that, how big that was. So this is rather interesting feedback. And I like the feedback that we're getting because this may be a shifting tide. Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks.
Good evening, my darling. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you, caller.
Good evening, Mr. Bodden. Nice to have you on.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening, sir. I do want to say, for years and years, I have been complaining. Why is it that we have PR or status holders who are here breaking the law, living day in and day out, selling drugs or doing illegal activities in our country, and they're not penalized? Why isn't it taken away from them? I mean, I sat in a PR ceremony, and they were told to uphold the law. They were told that they needs to uphold or the laws of the Cayman Islands, and they don't care. But the thing about it is, how many times have they been arrested? How many times have they gone to jail? How many times in court in front of the magistrate? And it's just repeatedly offenses, and they refuse to get rid of these people, take back their status and deport them. Because at the end of the day, they only carrying down Cayman worse than what it is. I am 100% agreeing to take away their status whenever they goes to court on an offense and are convicted, because they know you have some of them all day long. That's all they do, sell drugs. All day long, sell numbers. And then not only those that PR or status, you have, for God in heaven's sake, you got people taking out permits for people to be in our communities, selling drugs and selling numbers.
I agree with you. I agree with you, caller. I agree with you 100%. Sabrina.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to introduce two other concepts into the argument. Anchor babies and birthright citizens. Here's what I read. Here's what I see all too often in cases that come before the court. People break the laws of the country indictable offenses for which the penalty is deportation, but it can't be deported because, oh, this is the father and he's leaving a Caymanian child or children behind. And if we deport him,
Go with him.
there's no one to support the
Go
children.
with him or go with him.
Well,
Go
only
ahead.
in the Cayman Islands would that be
Not that
accepted.
simple, though, Romel. You have to be honest. Go ahead,
Only in
Mr.
the
Roy.
Cayman-
But then-
Only in the Cayman Islands would that be accepted as an excuse.
Mm-hmm.
If you commit an indictable offense, whether you're the father of one child or 100 children, out you go. So I don't understand why these people are allowed to remain here. Why they're allowed to remain here.
Mm-hmm.
And because there are people who, it seems to me, exploit the system by impregnating Caymanian women.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we call anchor babies. So we have a lot of things. We have a lot of things to tidy up, as the expression goes.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And it shouldn't be an excuse because at the end of the day, if they were so concerned about their child or their children that they have here, they would get a proper job and maintain their families,
Mm-hmm.
not selling drugs and ruining other people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that should never be an excuse because they have the condition. I thought about that before they went out there and selling drugs,
Mm-hmm.
which they know is against our laws. Go and get a regular JOB.
But
We really need these laws to change.
caller, you could remember me at another show that we were talking about marriage of convenience and that sort of stuff. It's not just immigration law that we're talking about here. There are other pieces of legislation that actually has to be looked at as well. But one of the biggest things, the right to family life, and under the human rights, that also has to be taken into consideration. So we can look at immigration as it is, answer and try to make steps in the right direction to hear the calls of the people, why that some people were elected, or that was a huge campaign thing of Romelia, you know that. But it's just not Immigration Act that needs to be looked at. We got to make sure that we're not in breach of human rights, because people do have a right to family life. And I brought that up under the interview, the podcast with Miss Joy Bazdeo, and the other day when I was speaking about suffering in silence with RJ Alexander. So it's a lot to be done. The good fact, we're ventilating it here on spaces like this. We're educating, but we're also getting a temperature check as well on exactly how the people are feeling.
Yeah, I totally agree. But we need to find a way to conquer this and to get this fixed. We need it fixed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you. Can you leave us there?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Roy, I know we had, we're going all over the place, but at least we're getting an idea of really what is going through people's minds, but understanding the vulnerability and looking at regional, how do you feel we are setting up where political maturity is concerned, understanding where we are strategically placed? Let's think about our stake, the political landscape, even regionally, with what's going on less than 45 minutes away from us. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts are that I have this fear that we are too vulnerable to the Jamaican political influence in Cayman. We're really too vulnerable. And in my writings, I give examples of what I experienced, what I saw. Even now, I see the behavior of some of the current politicians who emulate things from Jamaican political behavior that I think we could best do without. And so Cayman and Caymanians need to understand that we have our own identity in politics as in other things, and that's what we should seek to cultivate. We don't need to emulate any outside influences, particularly when they're negative.
Mm-hmm.
See? And
Mm-hmm.
that's that's my fear. That's my
Mm-hmm.
fear. I don't know whether it is because people lack the confidence in themselves
Mm-hmm.
to craft their own political behavior, or whether they believe it is popular because of the proportional representation of a certain element in the society, that
Uh-huh.
would be appealing. But we have to be careful. We have
Right.
to be careful.
So, with everything that's happening regional, and how do you think international economic and the geopolitical shifts? We're seeing what's happening here with inflation and all of that, especially how we are dependent on imports. How do you feel that specifically impacts the Cayman Islands in our very own economic stability, in your humble opinion? And also when it comes to development plans and people feeling inclusive, not left out, not left behind.
It places us in a vulnerable position in the sense that something like food security,
Mm-hmm.
we're way behind the eight ball. But it allows me to segue into something I learned recently, Sabrina, and something that
Mm-hmm.
you'd be interested in. Anguilla, which, like ourselves, is a dependent territory.
Mm-hmm.
Anguilla has embarked upon an economic venture now where they're making millions, multi millions, by selling an AI web domain, artificial intelligence web domain. Anguilla is making so much money that the AI web domain beats tourism by far. It has allowed the Anguillan government to fill its coffers with money. There's a virtual boom on now. Innovation. This much, I suppose, like Cayman did years ago when they had the .com,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
you know, and it led me to question, well, if we have all this brilliance here, all these brilliant minds in the financial sector, why did not someone think of this
Mm-hmm.
as a next step from .com now to artificial intelligence web domain, which
Mm-hmm.
Anguilla is selling? Anguilla is smaller than the Cayman Islands.
Mm-hmm.
So it leads me to say that if we want to be on the cutting edge,
Mm-hmm.
we have to be forever thinking of innovations that we can carry out in this day and age, because
Yeah.
we're coming under more pressure from tourism. Depending
Mm-hmm.
on tourism,
Mm-hmm.
and even to a certain extent, depending on international finance, it's good while it lasts, but we have to
Mm-hmm.
develop other entities other than that. Because if either one of these falls, then it will affect the whole economic structure, whole economic
Mm-hmm.
foundation on which this society is built. So
Right.
that, and then it leads us into other things. You were talking about geopolitics, other things. Cybersecurity is
Mm-hmm.
another thing that we have to be cognizant of.
Yes.
And we're one of the leading international financial centers. We have
Mm-hmm.
always be cognizant of cybersecurity from entities like North Korea, who specialize in these kinds of rogue plots and plans.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a challenge politically, but we also have a challenge economically.
Mm-hmm.
If we want to remain on the cutting edge. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, as we were just talking, we have a challenge socially too, in
Right.
in in arriving at a proper ratio of outsiders to Caymanians. So these are things that our political leaders have to sort out. So they have to be on their P's and Q's, because many of these are political decisions which will have to be taken. which leads me to say that we have to have the best and the brightest. You see, you have to have people who are knowledgeable. Gone are the days when you could just think parochially. Now you have to think internationally.
Correct.
And to be able to demonstrate strategies that have that kind of bearing.
Mm-hmm. Now, I've been bringing up deliberately CARICOM a lot here because we are an associate member. But how do you feel the Cayman Islands can leverage its partnership, knowing the role what do you think the role regional organizations such as CARICOM play in addressing like these common challenges that we're facing? We're seeing that's going to impact small island jurisdictions such as ours. Understanding we're still a British overseas territory jurisdiction, Mr. Bodden, that may actually have like a sense of security that it's not gonna affect us with what's happening around us. What's your take on that?
Well, CARICOM is an established organization, and Cayman can only be an associate member because we're still territory of the UK.
Mm-hmm.
But there are many things that we can derive from our associate membership in CARICOM. And
but we got to show up to these meetings.
Pardon?
We got to show up to the meetings.
We have to show up to the meetings. But let me give you the history of Caymanian association with the region, Sabrina.
Mm-hmm.
Caymanians have always shied away from becoming involved in the affairs of the wider Caribbean for a number of reasons.
Okay.
For a number of reasons. And the first one was that there was a fear of being overrun by these larger populated regions.
Mm-hmm.
That was one. The second one is that Caymanians really did not consider themselves a part of the West Indies. And so they don't have that kind of desire to affiliate too closely with these regions.
Mm-hmm.
And even in the modern times, when we were one of the founding members of the University of the West Indies, for years, Cayman didn't send students up there. Even although we were one of the founding members, and our membership dues were paid up in full all of the time, I can tell you. So there is a fear, I don't know if it's legitimate or illegitimate, that we have not yet quite overcome as far as certain associations with the region is concerned. Mainly, I believe it is because as Caymanians, we are still working through a national identity. And that's another challenge we have, working through a national identity, finding out who we really are. And if you follow the debates at the breakup of federation, this whole notion of whom should we align with,
right?
Jamaica or the United Kingdom? All of the fears and some of the prejudices comes out in those debates for those who want to read them and be informed. And we have not exorcised all of those old ghosts up to now. And so
do you think that will change in the future, understanding that the younger generation, the generation to come, is more exposed thanks to social media, AI, looking at more going off and going all over the world to school? And obviously, I've showcased a number of individuals, young persons that are huge in climate change, huge in making their footprint as Caymanians internationally. Do you feel that will change how we look at these partnerships, even though we're still a British overseas territory jurisdiction?
Yes, it will. Yes, it will. It will give us a more cosmopolitan outlook. It will force us to think more. And that is why I am very optimistic and encouraged by the younger generation and their
Mhm.
activism, particularly when it comes to things like conservation,
Mhm.
the environment, preservation of the environment, and all that kind of stuff. Because we need that if we are to survive. We
Right.
need that. We need a refreshing view on things. We need a refreshing approach. Otherwise, we'll get into greater trouble than we are at the moment.
Correct. Because now we're finding that the younger generation are very much advanced if we compare our days at that age. And I think it has a lot to do with technology, the power of the internet, the power of being able to access information so quickly. So I feel that we shouldn't allow, in my humble opinion, age to be a factor, but to look at how they're participating, how they're galvanizing, and actually making huge positive impacts internationally. But I find that in small countries like ours, that we still come back with that mentality of age. You're too young to be at the table, or we're seeing where now it's feeling that persons like yourself could have so much more to enter the stage that age could also be a factor. Or again, the old style mentality, you come with the wrong last name, or you lost at the polls. Those simple things, if you look at modern day society and as we evolve, is no more. It's what you bring to the table, not what you wear, not your surname, but what you contribute to a
That's right.
conversation that matters.
That is correct. That is correct. That's correct.
Mhm.
And the essence of democracy is lies in participation.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, young people shouldn't be dismissed or disenfranchised, and neither should old people for that matter.
Mhm. Mhm.
But too often people hear, well, you didn't win, you lost, or you're in the wrong party, or you have the wrong name, you come from the wrong place.
Mhm.
That those things don't build societies. They don't build nations. Don't build
Mhm.
nations. They destroy them instead.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Where do you feel we're going with that? Understanding you and I are former politicians, even though you put me in my place respectfully, and I respect it politely today. Where do you feel we're going with that? And just remaining active, connected. You've taken your life to writing of books. I'm quite sure you're still, whenever your advice is needed and someone reaches out to you, you're willing to lend a hand once you feel that what you're contributing is respected. Where do you feel we go with that and being more
You know,
inclusive with
it's,
former
it's an
politicians?
it's an interesting question you brought up, Sabrina, because the criticism I have with politicians who have spent their best years in politics is that whether they leave after being voted out or whether they leave voluntarily, most
Mhm.
of them remove themselves from constructive contribution in the society. And as I have written in one of my books, many of them prefer to spend their time in the counting house rather than
Mhm.
uplifting, edifying, and illuminating the community. Now, I have chosen that I've chosen to elevate and edify those who wish to be elevated and edified by writing. In some
Mhm.
societies,
Mhm.
in some societies, persons like myself, former politicians, are very well respected, and their eminence is sought out,
Mhm.
and they are put on advisory boards and in prominent positions where their advice is
Mhm.
often solicited, you know, and aired publicly because people believe that they still have a lot to offer by
Mhm.
virtue of their experience. But here, for many, defeat defeat at the polls means recrimination, anger, and cursing because they weren't elected
Mhm.
for some. And success at the polls for others mean withdrawn into themselves, their own little world, their own entity, whether it be they want to create another wealth empire or whatever the case might be, and they don't return to give a contribution, to mentor, to help other people along. And that's where our society kind of breaks down, because it's a small society, and we can't afford that kind of stuff. Everyone is important. Everyone has something to offer, and everyone has some time that they should be listened to. I mean, many people are dismissive, and quite surprisingly to me, some of them are people that I thought, had a greater level of intelligence. Oh, you don't need to listen to them. They were out a loser. And I'm saying, wow, is that really your mentality? You know? And so that's how we can't grow. And I talk about building a nation state. Until we put these kinds of prejudices behind us, we can't build a proper nation state. And sooner or later, when the chickens come home to roost, we'll find that we didn't do ourselves any favor by aligning people in that way.
Right. This was a heavy hitting question. I think we're maturing in this space here. We have a commenter is asking, do you believe Cayman is under a slow genocide?
No, you see, I'm the last person to ask that question because I'm the eternal optimist.
Okay.
I see the glass half full all the time. And while I admit that there are problems, I know also that there are solutions to those problems. We just have to find the right people that will pursue those solutions. I think that the position the world is in now, and what you talk about the geopolitics, will cause us concern in Cayman, because you're heavily dependent on outside sources for everything. For everything. And so it might seem to some people that we're suffering a slow genocide, but the course can be easily reversed. What I'm concerned about now is the cynicism I encounter with young people, many of whom are contributing to what I call the brain drain. They want to leave Cayman because they believe that Cayman doesn't afford them the opportunities for employment and growth that they're seeking. And many of them don't want to get involved in civil society because they're turned off. I questioned some young people about in the last election. They said they weren't on the voters list because they don't want to serve as jurors.
Jurors, yes.
And that's a sure way. Now, that's detrimental to any society. Worse to a small developing society like the Cayman Islands.
Yes.
And it tells me two things. Either they're cynical about the justice system, or they're cynical about society in general. And either is bad. So we have to get to the bottom of these things, because this is the next generation. This is the next Sabrina. This is the next Sabrina.
No, I get you.
And if there's a gap, Edmund Burke talked about generation will not link with generation, and men are like flies of summer. If one generation can't link with the other generation, we're going to have chaos. And if these young Caymanians don't fill those positions, power abhors a vacuum. Who will fill them? Outside people. The same people that we want to control are going to come in and fill them. So we have to find a way to encourage our young people to be participants in the society. Every political party should have a youth wing. Every political party should have a youth arm. But I don't see any.
No, man. There's one with TCCP that's very active. Now, whether they can do a little bit more on social media, there is one that's very, very, very active.
Well, I'm happy to hear that.
That is very active. They're putting the adult arm to shame, to be honest.
I'm happy to hear that.
they are putting the adult shame. So kudos to the young people that is led by Miss Leanne Tibbetts, and she has a phenomenal group there. And this is no plug. This is just speaking the truth. And whether or not they can do some more social media or get it out there to show that they're still alive and very active. Hint, hint. It's yeah, but I know behind the scenes that they are very active.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yes, sir. Now, that segues into pretty much your final question because we got 5 minutes. What lessons do you think current and aspiring politicians can learn from the experiences of those who have transitioned out of public life? Because it all depends sometimes on how you've exited. It'll determine how you're able to either hold somebody's hand or give sound advice, because you don't know if the person is hurt. You don't know if the person is scared. You actually described that in one of your other answers. Some people withdraw, some people continue, some people just get so, there are different stages of accepting, whether you do it on your own or the votes did it for you at the polls.
Politics by nature is one of those vocations where many people believe that success is determined by arrogance and hubris.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe it is demeaning to have to seek advice, least of all to seek advice from someone whom they may not consider a friend in the sense that is of their political alignment or political ideology.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens to many people that breeds their downfall when they get into politics, they take on what a friend of mine God image.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe that they don't need any advice, that they know it all. Or they seek advice only from persons of a similar mind, and then they never hear the truth.
Right.
So I think that, and that's what people ask me. People often ask me, well, Roy, why don't you call in on the shows more? Why don't you make yourself available? Why don't you? I don't do it because, Sabrina, first of all, I consider myself an intellectual. Mm-hmm. And I have other currency in my wallet. When I was defeated in 2005, I wasn't bitter and recriminatory because I always knew, here's what I say. I will share this with you. Here's what I used to tell my colleagues when they taunted me. Politics was my mistress. Teaching is my wife. And as often happens in real life, when I tire of my mistress, I shall return to my wife. So that's how I view things. I didn't skip because I believe I had something to offer. Mm-hmm. I write because I'm a teacher at heart, and I want to elevate. I also realize that the best politicians leave when there is still something they have in them to give, but they make way for younger people, for people with different ideas, people with different attitudes. And that is the essence of democracy. That's the essence of democracy. Not because you can win or you can die in office, should you die in office. Because that's why mothers have daughters and fathers have sons. So we groom these people to take over from us.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Thank you so much. If you weren't finished, I'll allow you this time to wrap up. And what would you like to be one of the biggest takeaways? And sir, I must be honest with you. I'm honored understanding what you just said, that you have currency. And reaching out to you and you being so willing to come on this platform, in my humble opinion, means a lot to me. And I'm hoping that people will respect what you bring to the table. I know that I respect you being a contributor to this platform, because one thing I realize that we are aligned with, we have at our core that we're going to educate. No one should be misguided. No one should be misunderstood when it comes to subjects and topics that we're discussing here. We can agree to disagree, but that's okay. We're going to make sure that, we are coming from an informed perspective. And this is why the participation publicly is so welcome and we respect it. But I must honestly, publicly thank you for allowing you to take this time, for you giving me of your time so that we can share with the masses here on this
No,
platform.
believe you me, I thank you. I thank you for the opportunity because, as I have said, I welcome the opportunity, and I like this show. I like what you're trying to do because I think that there is merit in what you're doing, and it's incumbent upon me to help in any way I can. And I want
Appreciate it.
to end like I've begun. I don't want to hear you say that you're finished with public life. Promise me that. I don't want to hear you say that. I want to hear you say, my job is to elevate and edify. And right now, this is what I'm doing. A
Yes.
time may come when I decide to take my elevation and edification to another channel.
Yes.
Because I believe that you have a lot to offer. And you shouldn't sell yourself
Sure.
short. Should
Thank you.
not sell yourself short. I wish you well on the show. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And as for people disagreeing with me, I thrive on that. And I'm a democratic person. They have their right to their opinion. I have my right to my opinion. And over those things, we will argue and debate, but we will never come to blows.
Again, thank
There
you
we
so
go.
much. Don't be a stranger. You always have a place here on Sabrina Speaks, and I'm quite sure our audience appreciates you too. All the best, sir. Talk to you soon.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I will go.
Whoops, sorry, that clicker works. Yeah, hello, and again, it has been I hope you found that this show this evening was very informative, and that we continue to showcase and highlight and bring topics up that you can take nuggets of education forward. It doesn't stop here, though. This episode today again breaks this surface. We're scratching the surface, and we're going to go back. I'm going to encourage other persons that we have different perspective, different views. You're free to be a guest here on the show as long as it's coming from an informed perspective. We want to hear all viewpoints, because as we continue to evolve in this space, I am giving you my word that I will bring the topics here as hard and as challenging as it could be. Now, I want you to participate. And by all means, anyone who wishes to be a guest here to bring these topics up, I can reach out to persons. You are more than welcome. And I thank all of the participants that I'm seeing your messages come in. Like I said, I rearranged the whole screen here and everything. And my apologies for whatever happened just now with the sound. But, I feel that it's truly essential that moving forward, that this education and the engagement that we're having here to you, it was long overdue, and I'm just so happy that I can fill this space. And it's critical for us as persons to understand that former persons and persons in the industry brings knowledge to the table, but also what matters to you, the landscape and the trajectory of where the Cayman Islands going as we continue evolve and developing in our political landscape, all the different legislations that come together and makes that unit one. Contributors like Mr. Roy and so many of you who are actually asking the right questions tells me that I'm picking up the right topics. It doesn't end here, ladies and gentlemen. Let these continued conversations happen around your dinner tables so that when we have topics like this come up, you can actually bring those questions forward. And I'm hoping that, we will be able to provide a more insightful response to bring more context and as we continue to educate in this space. But honestly, the true progress in the Cayman Islands hinges on each voter, every single person. It doesn't matter your background. It doesn't matter your network. It doesn't matter what your balance is in the bank account, because at the end of the day, it's all up to your vote. So let us champion a political culture where principles and performance and policy truly matters. And that starts with every one of us. Until tomorrow, have a safe and fabulous evening. And oh my God, I went over again. And I am not going to 2.5 hours. No, so I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. But thank you again for all of your support. It has indeed been a pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks right here on CMRTV.com. Until tomorrow, have a blessed evening.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, The dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.